Hi everybody, today I'm going to talk about multi-faith background and the story of my grandparents' forbidden love. So, some of this is very convoluted, so bear with me here. My mom's side has always been Catholic, and on my dad's side, my grandma grew up in Montreal with parents who were of English and Irish descent. My great-great-grandparents were from Ireland and were originally Catholic, but my great-great-grandmother converted to the Protestant Christian faith when my great-great-grandfather fell in love with her. My great-great-grandmother had actually been married at the time when my great-great-grandfather met her. Now this was the 1850s Ireland, and with it being a Catholic country at the time, she couldn't get a divorce. So my great-great-grandfather suggested she convert to the Protestant Christian faith and marry him. And that's what happened. And they had like 7 kids back then. My great-grandfather being the youngest, being born in England, and my great-grandmother was born in England as well. And both their families ended up immigrating to Canada in the early 1900s, and they met in a store. And it must have been whirlwind romance because they met in 1906, married in 1907, and then my great-uncle came along in 1908. Their oldest child, my great-uncle, was born. So they ended up having 5 kids, and my grandma was the second youngest of those kids. So that's that side. And then moving on my grandfather, on my dad's side, he also grew up in Montreal, like my grandma. He was born in Canada. But he was from an Ashkenazic Jewish family, a blend of Russian and Ukrainian. My grandparents met in the 1930s at a meeting of the Communist Party in Montreal because they were both very much into politics and fighting for equality in the workforce. They were very much activists. If my grandparents could have seen the economy crash in 2008, they would have been appalled, because my grandfather was president of his Free Trade Union in Montreal and fought for workers' rights and all that. From what I understand, he got sick of the union after a while because it was a lot of responsibility and could be stressful at times, so that's why they moved out to the prairies eventually. Anyway, there was no hostility towards my grandfather from my grandma's family. I think they thought it was odd that she was marrying a Jewish man, but they were like, oh, whatever. But the thing was, my grandfather's father, my great-grandpa, he didn't like that my grandfather was marrying a non-Jew, and the problem wasn't really that, but it was like my grandma wasn't going to convert, as she had lost her dad a few years prior to this, and her siblings had already been chosen to be baptized in the United Calvary Church in Montreal, so they were already Christian. So she was like, oh, I don't feel I have to convert, and my grandfather was like, that's fine, doesn't matter. So my grandparents ended up getting married in Brooklyn in a civil ceremony in 1937, and my great-grandfather didn't like this at all and didn't speak to my grandfather for 6 years, which was like close to the time when my dad's sister was born in the 1940s. So he was very strict, and he did not like that at all. But I mean, eventually he did meet my grandma and found out she was a really nice person, and then everything was fine. But just knowing that my grandparents had forbidden love story has always shaped my view of spirituality. Well, they themselves weren't religious. My mom made sure that I knew about my Jewish heritage. We baked moon cookies, lit candles Hanukkah, and even read a book called Herschel and the Hanukkah Goblins when I was a kid, which is about, this is the book here, it's about this Jewish man trying to celebrate Hanukkah and light the candles on the menorah. And these goblins hate Hanukkah and try to stop him to celebrate the occasion. And there was funny goblin character in this that's super greedy and wants to play the dreidel game, as he's like, oh, he's got lots of gold, I want to win all the gold. And of course Herschel is very good at the dreidel game and wins and takes away all the goblin's gold. And as you can imagine, the goblin isn't too happy about this at all. He loses all his gold, Herschel takes it, and the goblin's like, you know what, I don't like Hanukkah, I don't like this dreidel game, and I don't like you. So he leaves Herschel in his house and flies off into the night, leaving Herschel to light the candles by himself. So this is why I've never had hostile view towards religion, and I've always had a spiritual outlook on life, regardless of the label I place on myself. Growing up with a spiritual atheist, spiritual agnostic, Christian, eminist, whatever label I place on myself. I've always believed in some sort of afterlife. Religion was introduced to me, but it wasn't like shoved down my throat as a kid. It wasn't like dragging me to church and being like, you must believe this. I had more of a secular upbringing, and I guess more of a choice of to believe or not to believe. Didn't really matter. And that's probably why my spiritual views have been, for the lack of a better term, so odd and eclectic over the years. My views were kind of shaped by that secular upbringing. So, yeah, I just want to make a vlog about that and explain my beliefs have been so diverse over the years, and the story about my grandparents. I thought that'd be interesting. So, hope everyone's having a great weekend, and I'm going to go bike riding before it rains. So, peace and love. God bless. Have a great weekend. Bye.